G'day guys, Fraser here from the Greg Chapel Cricket Centre, joined by Jess Jonassen here, who's possibly one of the most decorated cricketers from last season. It was a bit of a belter. Welcome and thank you for joining us today.
No, thanks for having me.
We'll get into the good stuff, but I suppose we'll rewind the clock a little bit and have a chat about that missed World Cup a couple of years ago. How much drive did that give you going forward?
Yeah, a lot, to be honest. It was probably one of the toughest periods of my career to date. I mean, I've had a few knee injuries and whatnot, and missed a few games and everything like that. But I think for me, because it happened at the end of one of my best pre-seasons I've ever had, my body was in the best shape it had ever been, and then yeah, obviously sort of broke down about a month or so prior to that World Cup, and there was so much build up to it. And yeah, it was devastating, but yeah, fortunately here I am, and obviously off the back of winning the World Cup at home, I think yeah, I'm definitely glad that the injury happened in the one previous, that it didn't happen for the home one, that's for sure.
Yeah, and what a season. World Cup, Heat, MVP at the Heat, and a few more. It was a pretty big year or season for you. It's not going to get much better than that, is it?
Well, I hope it does.
Yeah.
No, it was sort of, yeah, it's one of those seasons where sort of in the moment didn't really realise what was being achieved from both a personal and a team perspective, and it hasn't been until all this coronavirus stuff that I've actually been forced to sit back and reflect, I guess, and yeah, sort of being able to go back to back with the Heat was really special, and with Kirby obviously retiring as well at the end of the year, to be able to send her off on a winning note as well, and yeah, sort of had a lot of doubters from the outside about whether we'd win it one time, let alone back to back. So, and now the pressure's even more so. We're trying to go for the 3P, but no, it's been, yeah, it was a really special year last year, and one that I'm looking forward to still building on this year.
Very lucky. Not lucky, a lot of hard work obviously put into it. Fire as well, new skipper.
Yeah, thank you. No, it's exciting. I was sort of be able to lead the girls on in both teams, both with the Heat and the Fire. So yeah, it's a challenge I was really looking forward to, and so far so good. The girls have behaved themselves, so haven't had to crack the whip too much. But yeah, it's something I think at a point in my career and personally as well that I sort of felt ready for, and yeah, the coaches and whatnot sort of backed me to be able to do the job, and yeah, I think like I just can't wait to actually start playing cricket again. Like we've trained a lot, and we've been doing a few centre wickets now, which has been good, sort of getting into that game phase and the game focus, and yeah, it's sort of, it'll be really good and really cool when we can actually get out on the field and play a proper game. So
the last couple of months have been all centre wicket training, you're still going pretty hard at it?
Yeah, like we've been really fortunate up here in terms of how coronavirus has impacted our state. So we're really fortunate that we've been able to train outdoors and be training relatively normally from like early June. So we've had, it's almost felt like two pre-seasons in a way, because you're sort of so used to having sort of played a few rounds of WNCL by now, but it's been nice. Like the girls have been able to fully work on new things and dedicate a lot of time to that, and normally you're sort of so constrained in terms of your times that it's actually allowed a lot of players to sort of excel at a more rapid speed, I feel, and I'm really excited to see them sort of out on the park to be able to I guess execute in a game environment, because it's so easy in training, you're not under the same amount of pressure. So yeah, from
scoring hundreds in the nets every time you're out there.
Yeah, exactly. The nets, everything is like as a bowler, everything's out, and nothing's a run. But as a batter, like nothing's out and everything's a run. So it's like you can't win. At least in a centre wicket, it's like goes in the air. Yeah, my fielder can move. So no, I'm really excited for the season.
Pretty high expectations. Hopefully, fingers crossed, everything goes well and we have another pearl of a season, huh?
Well, let's hope so. I just hope that like our team can have some great success. Like obviously it'd be awesome to go the three-peat with the Heat, and we've got some pretty incredible players. Like, yes, we've lost a few, but calibre of players we've got on the books is incredible, and to be able to have the opportunity to lead them is something that I'm really looking forward to.
And a bit of a personal accolade, cherry on top of 100 wickets.
Oh, that'd be nice. I don't even know how many more I need.
Well, you're there, aren't you?
Oh, I don't know. Oh, I've got 100 for the Aussie stuff, but yeah, in terms of the state, like, I'm a Queenslander through and through, so if I can perform really well for Queensland, then yeah, the Australian stuff sort of takes care of itself.
And how was the Australian stuff at the G?
Oh,
big crowd.
Absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Something that I genuinely never thought I would experience in my career. Obviously being in the system and whatnot, right back from before we had contracts for the Australian players, for the females. I was at a training camp when it was first sort of coming in, and yeah, it's just, and then you look at now where you end up getting 86,000 people to one game. Just the noise and the vibe and buzz that was out there, that, like, I reckon I was more nervous in the morning and the night before than I was when I got to the ground. And like, I vividly remember being in the warm-up and the ground announcer was like, okay, who's here cheering for India? And there was this really loud roar, and I was like, oh great, here we go. Because in our round game, India obviously beat us, and it felt like they had almost had a home game there. There was so much noise and energy for them. But then after the India cheer went up, then the ground announcer was like, okay, who's going for Australia? And it was like the roof came off. And it wasn't even to capacity. There wasn't even everybody in there yet. And as soon as I sort of heard that, I was like, okay, great. Like, we have more people here for us. And yeah, it was just really cool. Like, I sort of was trying to look at it, but obviously you want to go out there and win and whatnot, but it was such a massive moment for women's cricket and women's sport that I think regardless of the result, everybody involved would have felt like they won. And it's sort of, obviously if India would have won, who knows what it could mean for women's IPL and the support in their country for women's cricket. But obviously to be the host nation and to have a lot of people sort of behind the scenes wanting and wishing and dreaming for an Australian victory, to be able to do that was just pretty surreal, and it still is.
It's a booming ground. I've been there, I think, with 40,000 and the place shakes. So
yeah, I don't know what I was more excited for though, the final wicket in there, the final, or dancing on stage with Katie Perry. We always joked leading into it and during it when we heard that she was going to be there. And we're like, oh, so hopefully I can picture myself celebrating with a medal around my neck on stage, singing with Katy Perry. It was nothing about, singing the team song in the change rooms or lifting the trophy. It was just like singing on stage with Katy Perry.
The karaoke.
Like, it's not something that we ever would have thought was possible. You have this absolute worldwide superstar, and they're sort of helping you with a massive event and helping you celebrate that. Like, it was pretty cool.
I suppose women's cricket now, there's a lot of girls and boys that look up to you guys as superstars, so it's phenomenal to see, how far it's come.
Yeah, and like, I think for me, like growing up in the country as well, that I was never exposed to women's cricket or even a lot of female athletes. I remember, I had Anna Mears up there, who was probably one of my sporting heroes growing up, because she was one of the few, I guess, that I was exposed to as well. And it's really exciting now that obviously the WBBL is out there. A lot of our Australian women's games are being televised, and there's the media attention and the exposure is there. That it's so true that, like, you can't be what you can't see, and to be able to have young girls and boys, from my perspective, particularly in regional areas where you don't necessarily have the same level of support on the ground, that to be able to see that and know that I don't need to necessarily be from a metro area to make it to the big time, like, that's something, like a narrative that I'm really sort of passionate about, because I know how difficult it's been sort of making it from the country.
Yeah. You're considered a bit of an all-rounder now. Is that something that's always been on the cards? Did you grow up as an all-rounder, or were you a budding batsman?
Yeah, I always enjoyed doing both. I think, I think for the Aussie setup, I'm probably still seen more as a bowler. But I think in the domestic scene, I've always wanted to sort of bat a bit higher and probably score a few more runs than I have, and be a little bit more consistent in that area. And I think last season was sort of the start of that for me. I sort of, I guess, uncovered how I wanted to bat, and sort of did away with the fact that I wanted to try and bat like everybody else.
Yeah.
Sort of just had to look a bit inside and think, well, okay, well, how do I actually want to bat, and where are my strengths, and sort of just being satisfied with that and working with that, irrespective of how it might look on a wagon wheel or something like that. So yeah, it's sort of, it was always something that I did in sort of junior cricket and growing up and playing against the boys and stuff. And I think I'd always encourage people to try and do both as long as you can. And it sort of gets harder as you get older, though, in terms of trying to dedicate what time to what skill, and it's something that I'm still learning to do even now. Yeah.
So training slots are more difficult, I would imagine, as an all-rounder, given you're not just specialising in bowling or batting. It gets pretty tough trying to divvy it up half-half almost.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's sort of, you have to almost divide it into quarters in a way, where you sort of go, okay, one quarter's on batting, one's on bowling, one's on fielding, and one's on the tactical component.
Yeah.
So it's sort of, it's a bit hard from that perspective, but it's sort of, I've always sort of prided myself on being a relatively good planner and sort of good in terms of time management. So that sort of, you sit down over the weekend and have to kind of plan your week out. You can't just sort of go with the flow sometimes, and it's good and bad, like being able to do that, because then sometimes if something gets thrown up, like a bit of wet weather or whatever, it might impact training, and you're sort of like, okay, well, what now? What do I do now? But it is challenging, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
And we touched on it before, you're out from the country there. We did see you, recently, and when you were younger, popping into the Albion store. How were the experiences at the cricket centre when you were a bit of a youngster, shopping around for Gray-Nicolls stuff?
It was great. I kind of miss the days when I'd have to ask for cricket gear for Christmas.
Yeah.
It was always what's the latest Gray-Nicolls bat out, or what's the latest of this out, and I don't know, we were talking off camera in terms of bowling machines and that now. I was like, that would have saved my poor dad's shoulder. He would have loved it, just feeding balls and being able to just watch instead of having to bowl for 3 hours. It's sort of, I remember always coming down and being so excited to walk in the doors that it was just seeing all the bats lined up along the wall and picking out the next set of whites because I would have outgrown this pair. And I still go in there all the time to get a lot of things, whether it's bat grips or a lot of top-up sort of gear. And if it's last-minute gloves that I might have accidentally put a hole in one of them, and then I didn't order any or whatnot, and it's like, oh gosh, I need something. Yep. So it's so handy, it's so reliable, particularly being just around the corner from where I'm pretty much based. I joke a little bit that I almost live at the NCC more so than my own home sometimes. So to have something so accessible just around the corner is a godsend in many ways.
And you miss that Christmas feeling of coming in and ordering stuff at Christmas time when the catalogue comes out, but you're lucky enough to have a pretty nice bat there from the guys at Gray-Nicolls. It's the Delta.
Yes.
And tell us a bit about the shape and what you like and the size of it and what you look for in a cricket bat.
Yeah, well, for me, initially I chose the Delta because it was a time when I was down at the factory in Melbourne actually, and Kane Williamson was there as well as Henry Nichols, and the story about Kane using the Delta as well, and I think he might have even had a say in the name of it. So he's one of my favourite players at the moment as well, and he's just such a an awesome guy as well, and to hear that he was using the Delta, and I sort of saw the stickers and sort of just spoke to me in a way that
it's pretty eye-catching.
yeah, and like I've used bats like the Fusion through Matty Hayden because I really loved him, so it was almost a matter of that bats of a lot of the players that I sort of like how they play or have similar sort of styles in some respects. I sort of want to try and use the bats that they are, and like for me in a bat I really like a thinner handle. I sort of in mind get an oval shaped handle down closer there and a bit more rounded up the top.
Yep.
Obviously female, slightly smaller hands.
Yep.
For me, I like to really know that I've got hold of the bat.
Yep.
Another thing is I like it being as full as possible but not too heavy, so I sort of use between 2.7, 2.8 at most.
Okay.
With a nice even pickup.
Yep.
I'm not too phased in terms of whether it's squared, toe or rounded. With the amount that I tap my bat, it ends up rounded anyway. But yeah, and like occasionally like a little bit of two-tone, I don't mind that. It sort of, for me, gives the bat a little bit of character, and yeah, for me, as long as I can hit it in the middle sometimes, and it's got some runs in it, but yeah, the handle and the pickup are generally quite important.
Okay. And we hear about, you know, different players using different weights or different profiles, like, you know, some people like a lower middle when they play a different format or in a different country. Is it the same bat for you and you just adjust, or?
Yeah, same bat for me. If I find one that I like, I'll generally stick with it until it's pretty much on its last legs. But yeah, I sort of can get pretty attached to my Greek bat. Sometimes it takes a lot for me to. I generally, when I get some sent to me by Gray-Nicolls, I sort of generally ask for about 2, sometimes 3, depending on how much cricket and if we're going overseas or not. Whether I'll have easy access to getting gear sent. But yeah, I generally will get them out of the bag and pick them up and play a few shots and hit a few in the nets, and whichever one on that first net session I like the most, the feel of the most, I'll generally stick with that.
Yeah.
It takes a lot for me to actually go to the other one to think, well, okay, what happens if this one breaks? I still have to have this one ready also.
It's always in your head with cricket bats, isn't it?
I know, and it's crazy that you get something that's literally made the exact same time and time again, but it still feels slightly different. There's like some little nuances or whatnot, but yeah, I've always used Gray-Nicolls bats. Like my very first bat was a Gray-Nicolls Excalibur, and my club cricket coach actually gave it to me. So I have very fond memories of Gray-Nicolls, that's for sure.
And the rest of the kit, obviously all Gray-Nicolls as well. What else do you like in your gloves or your pads? Do you have another favourite bit of kit that you wear from the guys at Gray-Nicolls?
Probably my thigh pad.
Oh, yeah.
I'd be a walking bruise otherwise. No, I like gloves that aren't too bulky, and there's sort of some manufacturers where the fingers are just one sort of strip, whereas I like them actually being able to be cut in sort of 2 or 3 that can actually get a lot of sort of flexion within your hand and within your grip, and that's something that I really like about the Gray-Nicolls gloves, that are able to do that, and they're lightweight and really sort of easy to use, and yeah, definitely the thigh pad's another one. It's sort of,
so are you a combo thigh pad?
Yeah, inner and outer. I wish I had both inner and outer thigh pads when I was growing up, because my inner thigh used to get a pounding. I used to be so terrible off my legs as well. I used to just like try and jump out of the way, and I don't know what happened. I probably just, my club coach and dad just kept throwing them there, so eventually I had to be like, well, if you don't want to get hit, you have to hit it. So
that's what the bat's for, they say.
Exactly, and yeah, so it's sort of, if I had an inner thigh pad back then, I sort of would have been dreaming. Yeah.
We go through a lot of them. The old regular single thigh pad these days is almost unheard of. It's all inners. Everyone comes in with big bruises and, you know, well.
But what fascinates me the most is you can still have all the equipment, all the protection, yet the ball still finds a way to miss it. And all the time in pre-season, it's like whoever's first to get hit, you always just give them a little bit of of ribbing for the next few weeks until it's your turn to actually get hit in the fire.
And we have something else in common. It's certainly not cricket ability because I am not great.
Nah.
You've got a pooch.
I do.
How's Elfie? Little Frenchie?
Yes.
Yep.
Do you have a Frenchie?
I don't have a
Or you have a
Frenchie.
dog?
I have I'm a fur father.
Yep.
Almost 2 years old. And I think we're
Yeah.
probably born at
Yep.
almost a similar time. So
Yep. Yeah, Alfie will be 2 in December.
Yep.
So December 22
Yep.
is his birthday, so he was a Christmas baby. Yeah, he's really good. He's definitely the life of the house. He sort of keeps us both on our toes, and he's always just, it doesn't matter what kind of day you've had, you go home and he's always so happy to see you. And he's sort of, my partner and I have always sort of said that he's almost the perfect dog in terms of his personality and sort of his temperament, that he's sort of the right combination between being a bit cheeky, likes to play,
Yeah.
a little bit mischievous, and be like, but then he's so bloody adorable.
Yeah.
At the same time, it's just like, how can you not be mad? Like
Yeah.
his little face and.
I know what that's like.
Oh.
Ours is a bit more offset though, I think.
But I was a bit sceptical at the start of getting a smaller dog because I grew up with the German Shepherd, so I was like, oh, I'm not too sure. And we were sort of umming and ahhing for quite a while, and then we decided to just go for it. And now we're talking about in the next year we'll probably get another one.
Yeah.
So keep him occupied, so then we can go out and do our own thing.
Same boat. Well, appreciate you coming in and having a chat about the Gray-Nicolls kit and what you've been up to. And I know we said last season was an absolute cracker, but hopefully it gets even better for you. So appreciate the chat.
Here's hoping. No, thanks for having me.
Pleasure.